Long before satellites or GPS, ancient sailors ventured into the unknown, guided only by the stars above and the courage within. These were the explorers who dared to navigate uncharted waters, defying the limits of their time to connect distant lands and reshape the world as we know it. Their journeys weren't just about discovery, they were about rewriting the very maps of human understanding. From the Phoenicians braving the Mediterranean to the Polynesians mastering the vast Pacific, these maritime pioneers unlocked secrets that would change the course of history. But how did they do it? What drove them to risk everything for the unknown? And what did they uncover that still influences us today? In this video, we'll dive into 25 of the most extraordinary voyages of ancient maritime exploration, each one a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and the unyielding desire to explore. Get ready to set sail on a journey through time, where every wave tells a story and every horizon holds a mystery waiting to be unraveled. The Phoenicians were not just sailors, they were visionaries who turned the Mediterranean into their own vast marketplace. Hailing from the coastal cities of modern-day Lebanon, these ancient mariners built an empire not on land but on the waves. Their ships, sturdy and swift, became the lifeblood of a trade network that stretched from the shores of North Africa to the rocky coasts of Spain and beyond. But what set them apart wasn't just their ambition, it was their mastery of the sea itself. Using the stars as their guide, they pioneered celestial navigation, charting courses by the constellations long before compasses existed. This skill allowed them to venture farther than anyone before, opening up new worlds for exploration and commerce. One of their most remarkable achievements was reaching the British Isles, a journey that took them far beyond the familiar waters of the Mediterranean. They weren't just after adventure, they sought tin, a precious metal needed for bronze production. This discovery didn't just enrich their own civilization, it connected distant cultures, laying the groundwork for a global exchange of goods and ideas. The Phoenicians didn't just trade goods, they traded knowledge, spreading innovations like their alphabet, which would later influence Greek and Latin scripts. Their legacy didn't end with their voyages. The Phoenicians showed the world that the ocean wasn't a barrier, it was a bridge. Their fearless spirit and groundbreaking techniques inspired generations of explorers who would follow in their wake, daring to sail beyond the horizon. As we turn to the next chapter of maritime history, we'll see how their innovations set the stage for even greater adventures, proving that the unknown wasn't something to fear, it was something to conquer. While the Phoenicians were mastering the Mediterranean, another group of seafarers was achieving something even more extraordinary on the opposite side of the globe. The Polynesians, with no maps or compasses, embarked on voyages that took them across thousands of miles of open ocean, reaching some of the most remote islands on Earth. Their story isn't just about navigation, it's about a profound connection to the natural world and an unshakable trust in their ability to read its signs. Imagine setting out into the endless blue with no landmarks to guide you, no written records to follow, and only the sky and sea as your companions. The Polynesians didn't just survive these journeys, they thrived. They learned to read the subtle patterns of waves, detecting shifts in currents that hinted at nearby land. They observed the flight paths of birds, knowing that certain species would lead them to islands. And at night, they navigated by the stars, memorizing the positions of constellations to chart their course across the vast Pacific. This wasn't just skill, it was an art form. Polynesian navigators, known as wayfinders, passed down their knowledge through oral traditions, ensuring that each generation could build on the wisdom of the last. Their voyages weren't random, they were deliberate expansions driven by a desire to explore, settle, and connect. From Tonga to Tahiti, Samoa to Hawaii, and even as far as Easter Island, the Polynesians established a network of settlements that spanned the largest ocean on Earth. But their achievements go beyond geography. The Polynesians redefined what was possible, proving that humanity could conquer even the most daunting challenges with ingenuity and determination. Their legacy is etched into the islands they settled, the cultures they built, and the stories they left behind. They showed us that the ocean wasn't just a barrier, it was a highway, a pathway to new beginnings. As we move from the Pacific to the Atlantic, we'll meet another group of explorers who dared to push the boundaries of the known world. Unlike the Polynesians, who relied on the rhythms of nature, these adventurers would use the tools of their time, maps, compasses, and a burning curiosity, to venture into waters that had long been shrouded in mystery. Their journeys would not only expand the limits of exploration, but also lay the foundation for a new era of global connection. The Vikings were more than just fierce raiders. They were masterful explorers who turned the icy, unforgiving waters of the North Atlantic into their personal highway. With their iconic longships, these Norse seafarers ventured into the unknown, driven by a thirst for discovery and a knack for survival in the harshest conditions. Their ships, sleek and shallow-drafted, were engineering marvels of their time, designed to glide through both open seas and shallow rivers. This versatility allowed the Vikings to travel farther and faster than most of their contemporaries, leaving their mark on lands as distant as Iceland, Greenland, and even the shores of North America. Picture this, a small fleet of longships cutting through the frigid waves, their dragon-headed prows slicing through the mist. The Vikings didn't just rely on brute strength. They were astute navigators who used the sun, stars, and even the behavior of seabirds to find their way. Their discovery of Iceland in the late 9th century was no accident. It was the result of calculated exploration, driven by a mix of curiosity and necessity. From there, they pushed further west, reaching Greenland and establishing settlements that would endure for centuries. But their most astonishing achievement came around the year 1000, when Leif Erikson and his crew landed on the coast of what is now Newfoundland, Canada. Centuries before Columbus, the Vikings had set foot in North America, a feat that would remain largely unknown to the rest of Europe for generations. These voyages weren't just about conquest, they were about expansion, trade, and the pursuit of new opportunities. The Vikings opened up routes that connected Scandinavia to the wider world, bringing furs, timber, and other goods back to Europe. Yet, their legacy isn't just in the lands they discovered or the treasures they brought home. The Vikings reshaped European geography and trade, proving that even the most treacherous waters could be mastered with skill and determination. Their influence extended far beyond their raids, leaving a lasting impact on the cultures and economies of the regions they touched. As we leave the cold winds of the North Atlantic behind, our journey takes us to the sun-drenched waters of the Mediterranean, where another ancient civilization was making its own waves in maritime exploration. Here, the focus shifts from the rugged longships of the Vikings to the sophisticated galleys of the Greeks and Romans, who turned the Mediterranean into a bustling hub of trade, warfare, and cultural exchange. The Greeks were more than just philosophers and warriors. They were trailblazers in the science of navigation and cartography, transforming the Mediterranean into a canvas for their discoveries. While their ships may not have been as rugged as Viking longships or as vast as Phoenician trade vessels, the Greeks brought something equally revolutionary to the table, a thirst for knowledge and a systematic approach to understanding the world. Their contributions didn't just shape their own civilization, they laid the groundwork for centuries of maritime exploration. At the heart of Greek exploration was the desire to map the unknown. Unlike earlier seafarers who relied on oral traditions and celestial navigation, the Greeks began to document their findings, creating some of the earliest known maps. These weren't just rough sketches, they were attempts to represent the world as they understood it, complete with coastlines, islands, and even estimates of distances. One of their greatest tools was the gnomon, a simple but effective device used to measure latitude by tracking the sun's shadow. This innovation allowed Greek sailors to navigate with greater precision, venturing farther from home than ever before. Among the most daring of these explorers was Pytheas of Massalia, a name that might not be as famous as Columbus or Magellan, but was no less significant. Around 300 BC, Pytheas embarked on a journey that took him far beyond the familiar waters of the Mediterranean. He sailed north, reaching the British Isles and even venturing into the frigid waters near the Arctic Circle. His accounts of these voyages, though largely lost to time, provided some of the first written descriptions of these distant lands. Pytheas didn't just explore, he observed, documenting everything from the tides to the behavior of the stars, leaving a legacy of knowledge that would inspire future generations. The Greeks didn't just explore for the sake of adventure, their voyages were driven by a deeper purpose. They sought to expand their understanding of the world, to connect distant cultures, and to challenge the limits of what was thought possible. Their maps, though rudimentary by today's standards, were revolutionary for their time, offering a glimpse of a world that was far larger and more complex than anyone had imagined. These early cartographers didn't just chart coastlines, they charted the course of human progress. As we leave the Mediterranean behind, our journey takes us to a civilization that took maritime engineering to new heights, literally and figuratively. Their ships were marvels of design, their harbors feats of ingenuity, and their voyages a testament to the power of human ambition. The stage is set for a culture that would redefine what it meant to master the seas. The Romans didn't just build roads, they built an empire that stretched across the seas. Known for their legions and grand architecture, they were also masterful mariners who turned the Mediterranean into their own imperial highway. Their naval prowess wasn't just about conquest, it was about control, trade, and the relentless drive to expand their influence. With fleets of advanced ships and harbors that were engineering marvels, the Romans became the undisputed rulers of the Mediterranean, and their reach extended far beyond. At the heart of their maritime dominance were their ships. Roman vessels, particularly the quinquiremes, were designed for both speed and power. These warships, equipped with multiple banks of oars and reinforced hulls, could outmaneuver and outlast their rivals. But the Romans didn't stop at warfare. They also built merchant ships capable of carrying vast quantities of grain, wine, and other goods across the empire, ensuring that even the farthest provinces were connected to Rome. Their ability to construct and maintain such a vast fleet was a testament to their organizational genius and technological innovation. One of their most impressive achievements was the development of harbors like Portus near Rome and Caesarea Maritima in modern-day Israel. These weren't just docking points, they were feats of engineering, complete with breakwaters, lighthouses, and warehouses. Portus, for example, was designed to handle the constant flow of goods from across the empire, ensuring that Rome's citizens never went hungry. These harbors became lifelines, supporting not just trade but also the movement of troops and the projection of Roman power. But the Romans weren't content with dominating the Mediterranean alone. Their ambitions took them to distant shores, including Britain and the Red Sea. In 43 CE, Emperor Claudius launched an invasion of Britain, sending a fleet across the treacherous waters of the English Channel. This wasn't just a military campaign, it was a statement of Rome's reach and capability. Similarly, their expeditions into the Red Sea opened up trade routes to India and East Africa, bringing spices, silk, and other luxuries back to Rome. These voyages weren't just about wealth, they were about showcasing the empire's ability to connect the known world. The Roman navy was more than just a tool of conquest, it was a symbol of their ingenuity and ambition. By mastering the seas, they ensured the survival and growth of their empire, creating a legacy that would endure long after their fall. Their maritime achievements set a standard that future civilizations would strive to match, proving that control of the oceans was key to global dominance. As we shift our gaze from the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean, another ancient civilization was making waves of its own. Here, the focus turns to a culture that combined seafaring skill with a deep understanding of trade and diplomacy, creating a network that spanned continents and reshaped the world's understanding of exploration. As the Roman Empire dominated the Mediterranean, another ancient civilization was making its mark on the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. The seafaring cultures of ancient India weren't just participants in global trade, they were pioneers, crafting a network of maritime routes that linked continents and brought distant worlds together. Their ships laden with spices, silks, and gems became the lifeblood of an interconnected world, proving that the ocean wasn't just a barrier, it was a bridge to unimaginable wealth and cultural exchange. The key to their success lay in their mastery of the monsoon winds. These seasonal winds, blowing predictably across the Indian Ocean, became the highways of ancient trade. By timing their voyages to catch the monsoon's rhythm, Indian sailors could travel vast distances with remarkable efficiency. During the summer months, the winds carried them westward to Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. In winter, they reversed course, bringing ships back to the Indian subcontinent. This natural phenomenon didn't just make travel possible, it made it predictable, transforming the Indian Ocean into one of the most vibrant trading hubs of the ancient world. Indian merchants didn't just trade goods, they traded ideas. Their voyages took them to the bustling ports of Southeast Asia, where they exchanged not only spices and textiles but also language, religion, and art. The spread of Hinduism and Buddhism across the region is a testament to the cultural impact of these maritime journeys. In places like Java and Sumatra, Indian influence can still be seen in the intricate temples and sculptures that dot the landscape. Similarly, their trade links with Africa brought Indian goods to the Swahili coast, where they mingled with African traditions to create a unique blend of cultures. But the Indians weren't just passive traders, they were explorers, venturing into uncharted waters with a curiosity that rivaled their Phoenician and Polynesian counterparts. Their ships, known as dhows, were marvels of design, perfectly suited to the challenges of the open ocean. With their triangular sails and sturdy hulls, these vessels could navigate both the calm waters of coastal trade and the unpredictable swells of the deep sea. Indian sailors didn't just rely on the monsoon winds. They used their knowledge of the stars, currents, and even the behavior of marine life to guide their journeys. One of their most remarkable achievements was the establishment of trade routes that stretched from the Persian Gulf to the South China Sea. These weren't just isolated voyages, they were part of a vast, interconnected network that brought together the cultures of the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. Indian merchants became the intermediaries of the ancient world, connecting the silk of China with the gold of Africa, the spices of Southeast Asia with the pearls of the Persian Gulf. Their voyages didn't just enrich their own civilization, they enriched the world. As we leave the warm waters of the Indian Ocean, our journey takes us to a new frontier where the next group of explorers would face a daunting challenge, the vast, uncharted expanse of the Atlantic. Unlike the predictable monsoons of the Indian Ocean, these waters were shrouded in mystery, their currents and winds a puzzle waiting to be solved. But for those who dared to venture into the unknown, the rewards would be nothing short of revolutionary. The Carthaginians were more than just rivals to Rome. They were visionaries who pushed the boundaries of the ancient world. Nestled on the coast of modern-day Tunisia, Carthage was a powerhouse of maritime innovation, its sailors venturing into waters that others dared not cross. Their ships, built with precision and strength, were designed to withstand the unpredictable currents of the Atlantic, a testament to their mastery of shipbuilding. But it wasn't just their vessels that set them apart. It was their boldness in exploring the unknown, a trait that would leave an indelible mark on history. One of their most legendary explorers was Hanno the Navigator, whose journey along the West African coast remains one of the greatest feats of ancient exploration. Around 500 BCE, Hanno set sail with a fleet of 60 ships carrying thousands of colonists and supplies. His mission wasn't just to trade or conquer, it was to chart the uncharted. Sailing past the Pillars of Hercules, the modern-day Strait of Gibraltar, Hanno ventured into the Atlantic, a realm that many ancient civilizations believed to be the edge of the world. What he found there was a coastline teeming with life, from dense forests to volcanic peaks, and even encounters with indigenous peoples. His account, though shrouded in myth, provides one of the earliest written records of West Africa, a region that would remain largely unexplored by Europeans for centuries. The Carthaginians didn't just explore, they innovated. Their ships, known for their speed and durability, were equipped with advanced features like watertight compartments, a design that would later influence European shipbuilders. They also developed sophisticated navigational techniques, using the stars and coastal landmarks to guide their voyages. This combination of engineering and exploration allowed them to establish trade networks that stretched from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic, bringing goods like gold, ivory, and exotic animals back to Carthage. Their voyages weren't just about wealth, they were about expanding the horizons of the known world. But the Carthaginians' legacy extends beyond their own achievements. Their explorations laid the groundwork for future European navigators who would draw on their knowledge and daring to venture even farther. Hanno's journey, in particular, became a source of fascination for later explorers, inspiring them to push beyond the limits of their own maps. The Carthaginians showed the world that the oceans were not just barriers, they were gateways to new possibilities. As we turn our attention from the Atlantic to the Far East, we encounter another civilization that was redefining the art of exploration. Here, in the waters of the South China Sea and beyond, ancient mariners were embarking on voyages that would connect distant cultures and reshape the world's understanding of geography. Their story is one of innovation, ambition, and a relentless drive to explore the unknown. While the Carthaginians were charting the Atlantic on the other side of the world, another civilization was making waves of its own, literally. The Chinese, during the Han and Tang dynasties, weren't just building great walls and terracotta armies. They were also revolutionizing maritime exploration with groundbreaking innovations. Their contributions didn't just shape their own empire, they reshaped the way the entire world navigated the seas. From the invention of the compass to the construction of massive treasure ships, the Chinese proved that exploration wasn't just about courage, it was about ingenuity. At the heart of their maritime success was the compass, a simple yet transformative tool that changed the course of history. Unlike earlier navigators who relied on the stars and natural landmarks, Chinese sailors could now find their way even in cloudy or stormy weather. This invention, first used for divination before becoming a navigational aid, allowed them to venture farther and with greater confidence. By the Tang dynasty, Chinese ships were a common sight in the waters of Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean, carrying silk, porcelain, and tea to distant markets. Their ability to navigate vast distances with precision laid the foundation for a thriving trade network that connected the East to the West. But it was during the Ming dynasty that Chinese maritime exploration reached its zenith, thanks to the legendary voyages of Zheng He. Imagine a fleet of over 300 ships, some of them over 400 feet long, larger than anything the world had ever seen. These weren't just ships, they were floating cities equipped with everything from gardens to medical facilities. At the helm was Zheng He, a eunuch admiral whose 7 expeditions between 1405 and 1433 took him as far as East Africa. His voyages weren't just about trade, they were about diplomacy, showcasing the might and sophistication of the Ming Empire to the world. Zheng He's fleet brought back treasures like spices, exotic animals, and even giraffes, but more importantly, they brought back knowledge. His detailed records of the lands he visited provided some of the first accurate descriptions of places like Java, Sri Lanka, and the Swahili coast. These voyages weren't just feats of navigation, they were cultural exchanges that bridged the gap between East and West. Zheng He's legacy is a testament to the power of exploration to connect distant worlds and foster mutual understanding. The Chinese didn't just explore, they innovated, turning the seas into a canvas for their ambitions. Their ships, their tools, and their voyages set a standard that would inspire generations of explorers. As we turn our attention to the next chapter of maritime history, we'll see how another civilization, known for its seafaring prowess, would build on these innovations to conquer even greater challenges. The stage is set for a culture that would redefine what it meant to master the oceans, not just for trade or diplomacy, but for the very survival of their way of life. The Egyptians are often celebrated for their pyramids and pharaohs, but their mastery of the Nile River and the seas beyond is a story equally deserving of attention. For the ancient Egyptians, the Nile wasn't just a source of life. It was a highway, a trade route, and a gateway to the wider world. Their ships, from humble reed boats to grand vessels capable of navigating the open sea, were marvels of engineering designed to harness the power of both river and ocean. But their maritime achievements didn't stop at the Nile's banks. They ventured into the Red Sea and the Mediterranean, connecting their civilization to distant lands and cultures in ways that would shape their legacy for centuries. At the heart of Egyptian maritime exploration was the Nile itself. This mighty river, with its predictable floods and fertile banks, was the lifeblood of their civilization. But the Egyptians didn't just use the Nile for sustenance. They turned it into a network of trade and communication. Their earliest boats, made from bundles of papyrus reeds, were perfect for navigating the river's calm waters. Over time, they developed larger, more robust vessels capable of carrying heavy cargo, like the stone blocks used to build their monumental temples and tombs. These ships became the backbone of their economy, transporting grain, gold, and other goods up and down the river. Yet, the Egyptians' ambitions extended far beyond the Nile. As early as the Old Kingdom, they began venturing into the Red Sea, a treacherous body of water that tested their navigational skills and shipbuilding prowess. Their goal, the fabled land of Punt, a mysterious region rich in exotic goods like myrrh, ebony, and incense. Expeditions to Punt were no small feat. They required careful planning, sturdy ships, and a deep understanding of the sea's rhythms. The Egyptians' success in reaching Punt not only brought them wealth but also cemented their reputation as skilled mariners. One of the most famous voyages to Punt took place during the reign of Queen Hatshepsut in the 15th century BC. Her temple at Deir el-Bahri depicts the journey in vivid detail, showing ships laden with treasures and the people of Punt welcoming the Egyptian envoys. These expeditions weren't just about trade, they were about prestige, showcasing the might and reach of Egypt's rulers to both their subjects and their neighbors. The goods brought back from Punt enriched Egyptian culture, influencing everything from religious rituals to perfumes and medicine. The Egyptians' maritime prowess wasn't limited to the Red Sea. They also sailed the Mediterranean, establishing trade links with civilizations like the Minoans and the Phoenicians. Their ships, equipped with square sails and oars, were designed for both speed and stability, allowing them to navigate the unpredictable waters of the open sea. These voyages brought Egyptian goods to distant markets and introduced foreign luxuries to the Nile Valley, creating a cultural exchange that enriched both sides. What set the Egyptians apart wasn't just their ability to build ships or navigate waters, it was their vision of the world as a place to be explored and connected. Their voyages to Punt and beyond weren't just about wealth or power, they were about expanding their understanding of the world and their place within it. The legacy of their maritime explorations lives on in the artifacts they left behind, the stories they told, and the connections they forged. As we leave the sunlit waters of the Nile and the Red Sea behind, our journey takes us to a new frontier where the next group of explorers would face a challenge even greater than the Egyptians' voyages to Punt. These adventurers would set their sights on the vast, uncharted expanse of the Atlantic, a realm of mystery and danger that would test the limits of human courage and ingenuity. Their story is one of ambition, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. Long before the Greeks rose to prominence, another civilization was making waves in the Aegean Sea, the Minoans of Crete. Known for their vibrant frescoes and labyrinthine palaces, the Minoans were also trailblazers of the ancient maritime world. Their mastery of the sea wasn't just a means of survival, it was the foundation of their prosperity and cultural influence. With a network of trade routes that spanned the Aegean and beyond, the Minoans connected distant lands, bringing back not only goods but also ideas that would shape the ancient world. At the heart of their success were their ships, marvels of engineering for their time. Unlike the simple reed boats of earlier cultures, Minoan vessels were sleek, sturdy, and designed for both speed and cargo capacity. Equipped with sails and oars, these ships could navigate the unpredictable waters of the Aegean with ease, making them the backbone of a thriving trade network. From copper mines in Cyprus to olive groves in mainland Greece, Minoan ships transported goods that enriched their civilization and strengthened their ties with neighboring cultures. But the Minoans weren't just traders, they were explorers. Their voyages took them to islands like Thera and Rhodes, where they established colonies and trading posts. They even ventured as far as Egypt, bringing back exotic goods like gold, ivory, and papyrus. These journeys weren't just about commerce, they were about discovery. The Minoans were among the first to chart the Aegean, turning what was once a vast, unknown expanse into a well-traveled maritime highway. Their maps, though rudimentary by today's standards, laid the groundwork for future Greek navigators who would build on their knowledge. One of the most fascinating aspects of Minoan maritime culture was their ability to adapt and innovate. They developed advanced techniques for shipbuilding, using tools and materials that were ahead of their time. Their harbors, like the one at Como's, were engineering feats, equipped with docks and warehouses that could handle the constant flow of goods. This combination of skill and ambition allowed the Minoans to dominate the Aegean for centuries, creating a legacy that would endure long after their civilization declined. The Minoans' influence extended far beyond their own shores. Their trade networks and navigational techniques were adopted by later Greek civilizations who saw them as pioneers of the sea. The stories of their voyages, passed down through generations, inspired Greek myths and legends, including the tale of Theseus and the Minotaur. Even their decline, often attributed to natural disasters like the eruption of Thera, became a cautionary tale about the fragility of human achievement in the face of nature's power. As we leave the sun-drenched shores of Crete behind, our journey takes us to another civilization that would take maritime exploration to new heights. Known for their seafaring prowess and daring voyages, these adventurers would push the boundaries of the known world, proving that the oceans were not just highways for trade, they were gateways to discovery. Their story is one of ambition, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. While the Minoans were shaping the Aegean, another ancient civilization was carving out its own maritime legacy in the Western Mediterranean, the Etruscans. Known for their rich culture and intricate art, the Etruscans were also masterful navigators who turned the Tyrrhenian Sea into their personal domain. Their ships, laden with goods and ideas, became the lifeblood of a trade network that stretched from the Italian peninsula to the farthest reaches of the Mediterranean. But what set them apart wasn't just their skill at sea, it was their ability to connect distant cultures, creating a web of exchange that would influence the ancient world for centuries. The Etruscans didn't just sail, they built an empire on the waves. Their ships, crafted with precision and designed for both trade and warfare, were among the most advanced of their time. Unlike the simple vessels of earlier civilizations, Etruscan ships featured reinforced hulls and multiple sails, allowing them to navigate the often treacherous waters of the Western Mediterranean with ease. These innovations didn't just make them formidable traders, they also made them a naval power to be reckoned with. Their dominance at sea allowed them to control key trade routes, bringing wealth and prestige to their cities. One of their most significant contributions was their influence on Roman shipbuilding and navigation. The Etruscans, who predated the Romans in Italy, shared their maritime knowledge with their eventual conquerors. Techniques like the use of keels for stability and the design of multi-purpose ships were adopted by the Romans, who would later use these innovations to build their own naval empire. The Etruscans didn't just teach the Romans how to build ships, they showed them how to rule the seas. Their voyages weren't limited to the Mediterranean. The Etruscans ventured as far as the Atlantic coast, establishing trade links with distant lands like Gaul and the Iberian Peninsula. These journeys weren't just about commerce, they were about exploration. The Etruscans sought out new markets, new allies, and new opportunities, pushing the boundaries of the known world. Their reach extended to places like Sardinia and Corsica, where they left behind a legacy of trade goods and cultural influence that still echoes today. But perhaps their greatest achievement was their role as cultural intermediaries. The Etruscans were more than just traders. They were conduits of ideas, bringing Greek art, Phoenician goods, and even Egyptian influences to the Italian peninsula. Their cities, like Tarquinia and Cerveteri, became hubs of cultural exchange, where the traditions of the Mediterranean world mingled and evolved. This blending of cultures didn't just enrich the Etruscans, it laid the groundwork for the rise of Rome, which would later absorb and expand upon these connections. As we shift our focus from the Etruscans' bustling trade routes, we turn to a new group of explorers who dared to venture beyond the Mediterranean's familiar waters. These adventurers would set their sights on the Atlantic, a vast and uncharted expanse that would test their courage and ingenuity. Their story is one of ambition, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. As the Etruscans carved their legacy in the Western Mediterranean, another civilization was making waves on the other side of the world, the Arabs. These ancient mariners weren't just traders, they were pioneers who transformed the Indian Ocean into a bustling superhighway of commerce and culture. With their advanced navigational tools and deep understanding of the sea's rhythms, the Arabs became the undisputed masters of one of the world's most vital maritime regions. Their voyages connected distant lands, from the spice-rich coasts of India to the gold-laden shores of East Africa, creating a network that would shape the course of history. At the heart of their success was their mastery of the monsoon winds. These seasonal patterns, which shifted direction predictably throughout the year, became the engine of Arab maritime trade. By timing their journeys to align with the monsoons, Arab sailors could travel vast distances with remarkable efficiency. During the summer months, they rode the winds eastward to India and Southeast Asia, returning west to Africa and the Arabian Peninsula when the winds reversed in winter. This natural phenomenon didn't just make their voyages possible, it made them routine, turning the Indian Ocean into a vibrant hub of global exchange. But their navigational prowess went far beyond timing. The Arabs were among the first to use advanced tools like the camel, a simple yet ingenious device for measuring latitude by aligning the horizon with the North Star. This tool, combined with their detailed knowledge of celestial navigation, allowed them to sail with confidence even in the open ocean. They also developed some of the earliest nautical charts, known as portolan maps, which marked coastlines, ports, and hazards with remarkable accuracy. These innovations didn't just make them better sailors, they made them explorers, venturing into uncharted waters with a precision that few could match. Their voyages weren't just about trade, they were about connection. Arab merchants became the linchpins of a global network, bringing spices, textiles, and precious metals from India to the Middle East, and transporting gold, ivory, and slaves from Africa to Asia. Along the way, they exchanged more than goods, they shared ideas, languages, and religions, leaving a lasting cultural imprint on the regions they touched. The spread of Islam, in particular, was deeply intertwined with their maritime activities, as Arab traders introduced their faith to ports across the Indian Ocean. One of their most remarkable achievements was the establishment of thriving cities along the East African coast, such as Kilwa and Mombasa. These settlements weren't just trading posts, they were centers of culture and commerce where Arab, African, and Asian influences blended seamlessly. The architecture, language, and traditions of these cities reflected the interconnected world the Arabs helped create, a testament to their ability to bridge distant cultures. The Arab legacy in maritime exploration is one of innovation, ambition, and connection. They showed the world that the ocean wasn't just a barrier, it was a bridge, a pathway to new opportunities and shared prosperity. Their contributions to navigation, cartography, and trade laid the groundwork for future explorers, proving that the seas were as much a frontier for ideas as they were for goods. As we turn our gaze from the Indian Ocean to the waters of the Pacific, we encounter another civilization that would take maritime exploration to new heights. Known for their seafaring prowess and daring voyages, these adventurers would push the boundaries of the known world, proving that the oceans were not just highways for trade, they were gateways to discovery. Their story is one of ambition, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. As the Arabs were mastering the monsoon-driven waters of the Indian Ocean, far to the north, another group of seafarers was confronting an entirely different challenge: the icy, unforgiving expanse of the Arctic. The Norse, often remembered as fierce warriors, were also some of history's most daring explorers, venturing into frozen seas and uncharted territories with a tenacity that reshaped the map of Europe. Their voyages weren't just about conquest, they were about survival, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of new horizons. At the heart of their success were their iconic longships, marvels of engineering that combined speed, durability, and adaptability. These vessels, with their shallow drafts and symmetrical designs, were perfectly suited to navigate both open waters and narrow, ice-choked fjords. The Norse didn't just build ships, they built tools of exploration, capable of carrying them across vast distances to lands that had never before been seen by European eyes. One of their most remarkable achievements was the discovery of Iceland in the late 9th century, a land of glaciers, volcanoes, and fertile valleys that would become a cornerstone of Norse expansion. But Iceland was just the beginning. From there, the Norse pushed further west, reaching the rugged coasts of Greenland around the year 985. Led by Eric the Red, they established settlements in this harsh, frozen landscape, defying the odds to carve out a life in one of the most inhospitable regions on Earth. These weren't just temporary outposts, they were thriving communities that endured for centuries, a testament to the Norse's ingenuity and resilience. Greenland became a gateway for even greater voyages as the Norse continued to explore the edges of the known world. Their most astonishing achievement came around the year 1000 when Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, landed on the shores of what is now Newfoundland, Canada. Centuries before Columbus, the Norse had reached North America, a feat that would remain largely unknown to the rest of Europe for generations. They called this new land Vinland, a place of abundant resources and untapped potential. Though their settlements in North America were short-lived, their discovery marked the first known European contact with the continent, a milestone in the history of exploration. The Norse didn't just rely on their ships, their navigational techniques were equally groundbreaking. Without compasses, they used the sun, stars, and even the behavior of seabirds to guide their way. They also developed a deep understanding of ocean currents and wind patterns, allowing them to navigate the treacherous waters of the North Atlantic with remarkable precision. This knowledge wasn't just passed down through generations, it was honed through experience as each voyage brought new challenges and new lessons. Their impact extended far beyond their discoveries. The Norse voyages opened up new trade routes, connecting the remote Arctic regions with the bustling markets of Europe. Goods like walrus ivory, furs, and even live polar bears became highly prized commodities, enriching Norse traders and expanding the economic reach of their settlements. These trade networks didn't just bring wealth, they brought cultural exchange as Norse ideas, technologies, and traditions spread across Europe and beyond. As we leave the icy waters of the Arctic behind, our journey takes us to a new frontier where the next group of explorers would face a challenge even greater than the Norse's voyages to Vinland. These adventurers would set their sights on the vast, uncharted expanse of the Atlantic, a realm of mystery and danger that would test the limits of human courage and ingenuity. Their story is one of ambition, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. While the Norse were braving the icy waters of the North Atlantic, another civilization was rising to prominence in the warm waters of the Persian Gulf, the Persians. Known for their vast empire and military might, the Persians were also masterful mariners who turned the sea into a tool of conquest and commerce. Their ships, their trade routes, and their naval strategies weren't just about expanding their empire. They were about reshaping the ancient world's understanding of maritime power. From the Persian Gulf to the Indian Ocean, the Persians left a legacy that would influence trade and exploration for centuries to come. At the heart of their maritime dominance was their navy, a force that combined strength with strategic brilliance. The Persians weren't content to rule only by land. They understood that control of the seas was essential to maintaining their sprawling empire. Under leaders like Darius the Great, they built a fleet that could protect their coasts, project power across distant waters, and secure the vital trade routes that connected their empire to the wider world. Their ships, often manned by skilled Phoenician sailors, were designed for both speed and durability, making them formidable opponents in naval warfare. But the Persians didn't just rely on military might. They were also pioneers of trade, using their maritime expertise to create a network that spanned the Persian Gulf and beyond. Their ships carried goods like spices, textiles, and precious metals from India and East Africa to the markets of Mesopotamia and Persia. These voyages weren't just about wealth, they were about connection. The Persians became the bridge between the East and the West, facilitating an exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures that enriched their empire and the regions they touched. One of their most significant contributions was their role in developing shipbuilding techniques. Persian shipbuilders introduced innovations like reinforced hulls and advanced rigging systems, which allowed their vessels to navigate the often treacherous waters of the Indian Ocean with ease. These improvements didn't just make their ships more durable, they made them more versatile, capable of carrying larger cargoes and traveling greater distances. The Persians also excelled in navigation, using the stars and coastal landmarks to guide their voyages with remarkable precision. Their influence extended far beyond their own empire. The Persians' control of key trade routes allowed them to shape the flow of goods and ideas across the ancient world. Cities like Suraf, a bustling port on the Persian Gulf, became hubs of commerce and culture, where merchants from as far away as China and East Africa converged to trade. These connections didn't just bring prosperity, they brought innovation as the Persians absorbed and adapted the technologies and traditions of the regions they traded with. As we shift our focus from the warm waters of the Persian Gulf, we turn to a civilization that would take maritime exploration to even greater heights. Known for their seafaring prowess and daring voyages, these adventurers would push the boundaries of the known world, proving that the oceans were not just highways for trade, they were gateways to discovery. Their story is one of ambition, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. As the Persians were mastering the trade routes of the Indian Ocean, another seafaring culture was making waves far to the east, the Indonesians. In the vast expanse of the Pacific, these ancient mariners achieved what many would have thought impossible, settling some of the most remote islands on Earth. Their voyages weren't just about survival, they were about creating connections across thousands of miles of open ocean, weaving together a network of cultures that spanned the Pacific. With their advanced ships and unparalleled navigational skills, the Indonesians became pioneers of a maritime world that was as vast as it was mysterious. The key to their success lay in their remarkable ships known as prahu. These vessels, crafted with precision and ingenuity, were designed to handle the challenges of the open ocean. Unlike the simple canoes of earlier island cultures, the prahu featured outriggers for stability and sails that could catch even the gentlest breeze. This combination of speed and durability allowed the Indonesians to travel incredible distances, carrying not only people and supplies but also the seeds of new civilizations. Their ships were more than just transportation, they were lifelines, carrying the hopes and dreams of entire communities to uncharted shores. But building great ships was only part of the story. The Indonesians also developed sophisticated navigational techniques that allowed them to traverse the Pacific with astonishing accuracy. Without compasses or written charts, they relied on the natural world to guide them. They studied the patterns of ocean swells, the flight paths of birds, and the positions of stars to chart their courses. This deep understanding of their environment wasn't just practical, it was spiritual, rooted in a profound respect for the sea and its rhythms. Their ability to read the ocean like a map made them some of the most skilled navigators in history. Their voyages took them to some of the most remote corners of the Pacific, from the lush islands of Polynesia to the rugged coasts of Micronesia. Along the way, they established settlements that became centers of trade and cultural exchange. Goods like spices, shells, and obsidian traveled across vast distances, connecting distant islands in a web of commerce and communication. These trade networks weren't just about material wealth, they were about sharing ideas, traditions, and technologies. The Indonesians became the cultural bridge of the Pacific, bringing together peoples who might otherwise have remained isolated. One of their most enduring legacies is the spread of what historians call the Austronesian expansion. Starting around 3000 BCE, these seafaring peoples began migrating from Southeast Asia, eventually settling islands as far away as Madagascar and Easter Island. This wasn't just a series of random voyages, it was a deliberate and sustained effort to explore and settle new lands. The Indonesians didn't just conquer the Pacific, they made it their home, creating a legacy of exploration and connection that still resonates today. As we leave the warm waters of the Pacific behind, our journey takes us to a new frontier where the next group of explorers would face a challenge even greater than the Indonesians' voyages across the open ocean. These adventurers would set their sights on the vast, uncharted expanse of the Atlantic, a realm of mystery and danger that would test the limits of human courage and ingenuity. Their story is one of ambition, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. While the Indonesians were charting the vast Pacific, another civilization was making waves closer to home, the Mayans. Known for their towering pyramids and intricate calendars, the Mayans were also masterful navigators who turned the coasts of Central America into a thriving hub of trade and cultural exchange. Their maritime explorations weren't just about survival, they were about connecting distant lands and shaping the destiny of an entire region. With their advanced ships and deep understanding of the sea, the Mayans built a network that stretched from the Yucatan Peninsula to as far south as modern-day Honduras, proving that the ocean was as much a part of their world as the rainforest. At the heart of their maritime success were their cayucos, sleek canoes carved from massive tree trunks and capable of carrying both people and goods across long distances. These vessels, often equipped with sails made from woven fibers, were designed to navigate the often choppy waters of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. The Mayans didn't just build boats, they built tools of exploration and trade, enabling them to transport everything from jade and obsidian to cacao and salt. These goods weren't just commodities, they were symbols of power, wealth, and cultural identity, traded across a network that linked coastal cities to inland kingdoms. But the Mayans' achievements went beyond their ships. They were also skilled navigators who understood the rhythms of the sea. Without compasses or written charts, they relied on the stars, the sun, and even the behavior of marine life to guide their journeys. They mapped out coastal landmarks and currents, creating mental charts that allowed them to travel with confidence. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was sacred, deeply intertwined with their cosmology and understanding of the natural world. For the Mayans, the sea wasn't just a resource, it was a living, breathing force to be respected and understood. Their maritime trade routes became the lifeblood of their civilization, connecting cities like Chelum and Zelha to distant markets. Through these networks, the Mayans exchanged not only goods but also ideas, art, and technology. For example, the spread of their distinctive pottery styles and architectural techniques across the region is a testament to the power of these connections. They didn't just trade physical items, they traded culture, spreading their influence far beyond their borders. One of their most fascinating contributions was the trade of cacao, a commodity so valuable it was often used as currency. Mayan merchants transported cacao beans from the fertile lowlands to highland regions, where they were transformed into the frothy, spiced drink enjoyed by rulers and elites. This trade wasn't just about economics, it was about status and ritual, showcasing the Mayans' ability to turn the sea into a pathway for both commerce and cultural exchange. The Mayans' maritime legacy is a reminder that exploration isn't always about crossing vast oceans. It's about understanding and mastering the waters closest to home. Their ability to navigate and connect coastal communities laid the groundwork for a thriving civilization that endured for centuries. As we move from the warm waters of Central America, we'll explore another civilization that took maritime exploration to even greater heights. Known for their seafaring prowess and daring voyages, these adventurers would push the boundaries of the known world, proving that the oceans were not just highways for trade, they were gateways to discovery. Their story is one of ambition, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. While the Mayans were mastering the coastal waters of Central America, far to the south, another civilization was making its mark on the Pacific, the Incas. Known for their sprawling empire and engineering marvels like Machu Picchu, the Incas were also skilled navigators who turned the Pacific coast of South America into a bustling corridor of trade and cultural exchange. Their maritime explorations weren't just about connecting distant lands, they were about weaving together a vast empire that stretched from the Andes Mountains to the ocean's edge. With their advanced ships and deep understanding of the sea, the Incas built a network that was as impressive as their stone cities, proving that their mastery extended far beyond the mountains. At the heart of their maritime success were their balsas, unique rafts made from bundles of reeds that were surprisingly sturdy and versatile. These vessels, capable of carrying both people and cargo, were perfectly suited to the challenges of the Pacific coast. The Incas didn't just rely on their ships to transport goods. They used them to maintain control over their empire, ensuring that even the most remote regions were connected to the heart of their civilization. Their balsas became the lifeline of a trade network that moved everything from fish and maize to textiles and precious metals, creating a flow of goods that sustained their empire's growth. But the Incas' maritime achievements weren't limited to their ships. They were also skilled navigators who understood the rhythms of the ocean. Without compasses or written charts, they relied on the stars, the sun, and the patterns of the waves to guide their journeys. They mapped out coastal landmarks and currents, creating a mental atlas that allowed them to travel with confidence. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was deeply tied to their worldview, where the sea was seen as a sacred force, as vital to their survival as the mountains they called home. One of their most remarkable contributions was their ability to connect distant cultures through trade. Along the Pacific coast, the Incas established ports like Chan Chan and Pachacamac, which became hubs of commerce and cultural exchange. Goods like shells, pottery, and even exotic birds were traded across vast distances, linking coastal communities to the highland cities of the Andes. These trade routes weren't just about material wealth, they were about sharing ideas, traditions, and technologies. The Incas became the cultural bridge of South America, bringing together peoples who might otherwise have remained isolated. Their maritime legacy is a testament to their ingenuity and adaptability. The Incas showed that even in a world dominated by mountains, the ocean could be a powerful tool for connection and expansion. Their ability to navigate and trade along the Pacific coast laid the foundation for an empire that thrived for centuries, leaving behind a legacy that still resonates today. As we shift our focus from the Pacific to the Atlantic, we encounter another group of explorers who dared to venture into uncharted waters. These adventurers would face a new frontier, one that would test their courage and ingenuity in ways that even the Incas could not have imagined. Their story is one of ambition, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown, as they set their sights on a realm that had long been shrouded in mystery. The stage is set for a new chapter in the history of maritime exploration, where the waves of the Atlantic would become the gateway to a world of possibilities. As the Incas navigated the Pacific coast of South America across the vast ocean, another civilization was making its own waves: ancient Japan. Nestled in the islands of the East China Sea, the Japanese were not only skilled warriors and artisans, but also masterful mariners who turned the sea into a bridge to the wider world. Their maritime explorations weren't just about survival, they were about forging connections, sharing culture, and expanding their influence across the waters of East Asia. With their advanced ships and deep understanding of the sea's rhythms, the Japanese became pioneers of a maritime network that linked their island nation to the bustling trade routes of China, Korea, and beyond. At the heart of their maritime success were their takarabyun, or treasure ships, sturdy vessels designed to navigate the often treacherous waters of the East China Sea. These ships, crafted with precision and built to withstand rough seas, were the lifeblood of Japanese trade and diplomacy. Unlike the reed boats of earlier cultures, takarabyun were constructed from durable wood and equipped with sails that could catch even the slightest breeze, allowing them to travel long distances with ease. They weren't just ships, they were floating ambassadors carrying goods, ideas, and people across the sea to distant shores. But the Japanese didn't just rely on their ships, their navigational skills were equally impressive. Without compasses or written charts, they studied the stars, the sun, and even the patterns of ocean currents to guide their journeys. They developed a deep understanding of the sea's moods, learning to read the subtle shifts in wind and waves that hinted at safe passages or impending storms. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was spiritual, rooted in a profound respect for the ocean as a living force. For the Japanese, the sea wasn't just a resource, it was a partner in their journey toward connection and discovery. Their voyages took them to the ports of China and Korea, where they traded silk, ceramics, and precious metals. But these journeys weren't just about commerce, they were about cultural exchange. Japanese merchants and diplomats returned home with more than just goods. They brought back ideas, art, and technology that would shape their civilization for centuries. For example, the introduction of Buddhism from China, along with its art and architecture, profoundly influenced Japanese culture, leaving a legacy that can still be seen in temples and shrines across the country. One of the most fascinating aspects of Japanese maritime culture was their role as intermediaries between East Asia and the wider world. Through their trade networks, they facilitated the exchange of goods like Chinese silk and Korean ceramics, which became highly prized not just in Japan but also in distant markets. They didn't just participate in trade, they shaped it, creating a flow of goods and ideas that enriched not only their own civilization, but also the regions they connected with. Their ability to navigate and negotiate these waters made them key players in the ancient maritime world. As we shift our gaze from the East China Sea to the waters of the Mediterranean, we encounter another civilization that would take maritime exploration to even greater heights. Known for their seafaring prowess and daring voyages, these adventurers would push the boundaries of the known world, proving that the oceans were not just highways for trade, they were gateways to discovery. Their story is one of ambition, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. While the Japanese were navigating the East China Sea, their close neighbors, the ancient Koreans, were making their own mark on the maritime world. Known for their resilience and ingenuity, the Koreans turned the Yellow Sea into a bustling corridor of trade and cultural exchange. Their maritime explorations weren't just about survival, they were about building bridges between civilizations, proving that even a small peninsula could wield immense influence over the waves. With advanced ships and a deep understanding of the sea's rhythms, the Koreans became masters of their domain, connecting their culture to the wider world in ways that still resonate today. At the heart of Korean maritime success were their gwaeson, or turtle ships, iconic vessels that combined strength, speed, and innovation. These ships, with their distinctive armored shells and dragon-shaped prows, were designed not just for trade but also for defense, showcasing the Koreans' ability to adapt to the challenges of their environment. The gwaeson were more than just boats, they were symbols of Korean ingenuity, capable of navigating the often treacherous waters of the Yellow Sea with remarkable precision. Their sturdy construction allowed them to carry goods like ceramics, silk, and metalwork to distant markets, while their defensive features ensured they could protect their valuable cargo from pirates and rival forces. But the Koreans' maritime achievements went far beyond their ships. They were also skilled navigators who understood the intricacies of the Yellow Sea's tides, currents, and weather patterns. Without compasses or written charts, they relied on the stars, the sun, and even the behavior of seabirds to guide their journeys. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was deeply rooted in their culture, reflecting a profound respect for the sea as both a resource and a force of nature. For the Koreans, navigating the Yellow Sea wasn't just a skill, it was an art form passed down through generations and honed through experience. Their voyages took them to the bustling ports of China and Japan, where they traded goods, ideas, and technologies. Korean ceramics in particular became highly prized across East Asia, admired for their delicate craftsmanship and vibrant designs. These trade networks weren't just about commerce, they were about cultural exchange. The Koreans became intermediaries, facilitating the flow of goods and ideas between China, Japan, and the wider world. Through their maritime connections, they introduced innovations like metalworking techniques and agricultural practices, leaving a lasting impact on the regions they touched. One of their most fascinating contributions was their role in spreading Buddhism across East Asia. Korean monks and merchants carried Buddhist texts, art, and teachings to Japan, where they played a key role in shaping the island nation's spiritual and cultural landscape. This exchange wasn't just one-way. Korean culture was also enriched by the ideas and traditions they encountered abroad, creating a dynamic interplay of influences that defined their civilization for centuries. As we shift our focus from the Yellow Sea to the vast, uncharted waters of the Atlantic, we encounter another group of explorers who dared to venture into the unknown. These adventurers would face a new frontier, one that would test their courage and ingenuity in ways that even the Koreans could not have imagined. Their story is one of ambition, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown as they set their sights on a realm that had long been shrouded in mystery. The stage is set for a new chapter in the history of maritime exploration, where the waves of the Atlantic would become the gateway to a world of possibilities. As the Koreans were weaving their cultural and trade networks across the Yellow Sea, far to the west, another ancient civilization was making its mark on the waters of the Persian Gulf, the Babylonians. Often celebrated for their towering ziggurats and groundbreaking legal codes, the Babylonians were also masterful mariners who turned the Persian Gulf into a vital corridor of trade and cultural exchange. Their maritime explorations weren't just about connecting distant lands, they were about building an empire that thrived on the wealth and knowledge flowing through its ports. With advanced ships and a deep understanding of the sea's rhythms, the Babylonians became pioneers of a maritime network that linked Mesopotamia to the wider world. At the heart of their maritime success were their ships, marvels of engineering for their time. Unlike the simple reed boats of earlier civilizations, Babylonian vessels were constructed from durable wood and reinforced with bitumen, a natural tar that made them watertight and resilient. These ships, often equipped with sails and oars, were designed to navigate the often treacherous waters of the Persian Gulf with ease. Whether transporting grain, textiles, or precious metals, these vessels became the backbone of a thriving trade network that extended from the Gulf to the Indus Valley and beyond. The Babylonians didn't just build ships, they built bridges between cultures, using the sea as a highway for goods, ideas, and people. But their achievements went far beyond shipbuilding. The Babylonians were also skilled navigators who understood the intricacies of the Persian Gulf's tides, currents, and wind patterns. Without the use of compasses or written charts, they relied on the stars, the sun, and even the behavior of marine life to guide their journeys. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was deeply tied to their worldview, where the sea was seen as a divine force, a gift from the gods to be respected and mastered. Their ability to read the natural world like a map allowed them to travel with confidence, turning the Persian Gulf into a bustling hub of ancient commerce. One of their most significant contributions was their role in facilitating trade between Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley civilization. Through their maritime connections, goods like lapis lazuli, cotton, and exotic spices flowed into Babylonian markets, enriching their culture and economy. These trade routes weren't just about material wealth, they were about cultural exchange. Babylonian art, architecture, and even their famed legal codes were influenced by the ideas and technologies they encountered through these connections. The Babylonians became the cultural bridge of the ancient Near East, bringing together peoples who might otherwise have remained isolated. The legacy of Babylonian maritime exploration is a testament to their ingenuity and ambition. They showed that even in a landlocked region dominated by rivers and deserts, the sea could be a powerful tool for connection and expansion. Their ability to navigate and trade across the Persian Gulf laid the foundation for an empire that thrived for centuries, leaving behind a legacy that still resonates today. As we turn our gaze from the warm waters of the Persian Gulf to the vast expanse of the Mediterranean, we encounter another civilization that would take maritime exploration to even greater heights. Known for their seafaring prowess and daring voyages, these adventurers would push the boundaries of the known world, proving that the oceans were not just highways for trade, they were gateways to discovery. Their story is one of ambition, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown, as they set their sights on a realm that had long been shrouded in mystery. The stage is set for a new chapter in the history of maritime exploration, where the waves of the Mediterranean would become the gateway to a world of possibilities. As the Babylonians dominated the Persian Gulf, their northern neighbors, the Assyrians, were carving out their own maritime legacy in the waters of the Mediterranean. Known for their fearsome armies and sprawling empire, the Assyrians were also masterful navigators who turned the sea into a tool of conquest and connection. Their maritime explorations weren't just about expanding their borders, they were about creating a network that linked their civilization to the wider world, proving that even a land-based empire could master the waves. At the heart of their maritime success were their ships, marvels of engineering that combined strength with versatility. Unlike the simple vessels of earlier cultures, Assyrian ships were designed for both warfare and trade, equipped with reinforced hulls and multiple sails that allowed them to navigate the Mediterranean's unpredictable waters with ease. These vessels became the backbone of their empire, transporting troops, goods, and ideas across vast distances. Whether patrolling the coasts or launching expeditions to distant shores, the Assyrian ships were more than just tools. They were symbols of their ambition and ingenuity. But the Assyrians didn't just rely on their ships. Their navigational techniques were equally groundbreaking. Without the use of compasses or written charts, they turned to the stars and the sun to guide their journeys. They mapped out coastal landmarks and studied the patterns of currents, creating mental charts that allowed them to travel with confidence. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was strategic, giving them an edge in both trade and warfare. For the Assyrians, the sea wasn't just a resource, it was a frontier to be conquered, a pathway to new opportunities and greater power. One of their most significant contributions was their role in connecting Mesopotamia to the Mediterranean world. Through their maritime routes, goods like cedar wood, olive oil, and precious metals flowed into Assyrian markets, enriching their economy and culture. These trade networks weren't just about wealth, they were about influence. The Assyrians became intermediaries, facilitating the exchange of goods and ideas between the East and the West. Their ability to navigate and negotiate these waters made them key players in the ancient world, shaping the course of history in ways that still resonate today. The Assyrians' maritime legacy is a testament to their adaptability and ambition. They showed that even a civilization known for its land-based conquests could master the sea, using it to expand their empire and connect with distant cultures. Their ships, their navigational skills, and their trade networks laid the foundation for a legacy that would endure long after their empire fell. Now, as we shift our focus from the Mediterranean to the vast, uncharted waters of the Atlantic, we encounter a new group of explorers who dared to venture into the unknown. These adventurers would face a realm of mystery and danger, where the waves of the Atlantic would test their courage and ingenuity like never before. Their story is one of ambition, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown, as they set their sights on a frontier that had long been shrouded in legend. The stage is set for a new chapter in the history of maritime exploration, where the ocean would become not just a barrier, but a gateway to a world of possibilities. The Hittites, often celebrated for their powerful empire and mastery of land warfare, were also pioneers of the seas, particularly the mysterious waters of the Black Sea. Nestled in the rugged highlands of Anatolia, this ancient civilization didn't just conquer mountains and plains, they turned their gaze toward the horizon, mastering the art of maritime trade and exploration. While their chariots and fortresses are legendary, their ships and seafaring skills played a crucial role in shaping their empire's reach and influence. With a combination of advanced vessels and innovative navigational techniques, the Hittites transformed the Black Sea into a vital corridor of trade and cultural exchange. At the heart of their maritime success were their ships, sturdy and versatile vessels designed to navigate the often treacherous waters of the Black Sea. Unlike the simple boats of earlier cultures, Hittite ships were built with reinforced hulls and multiple sails, allowing them to handle the sea's unpredictable currents and storms. These ships weren't just tools of trade, they were symbols of the Hittites' adaptability and ambition. Whether transporting grain, metals, or luxury goods, their vessels became the lifeline of a trade network that connected Anatolia to distant shores. The Hittites didn't just rely on their ships, they mastered the art of navigating the Black Sea's unique challenges, using the stars, the sun, and even the patterns of coastal winds to guide their journeys. The Black Sea was more than just a body of water for the Hittites, it was a gateway to opportunity. Through their maritime routes, they established trade connections with neighboring cultures like the Greeks, the Thracians, and the peoples of the Caucasus. These exchanges weren't just about goods, they were about ideas. The Hittites imported raw materials like copper and timber, which were essential for their thriving metalworking and construction industries. In return, they exported their finely crafted weapons, tools, and pottery, spreading their influence far beyond their borders. This flow of goods and knowledge enriched their culture and strengthened their empire, proving that even a landlocked civilization could thrive on the waves. One of the most fascinating aspects of Hittite maritime culture was their ability to adapt and innovate. They didn't just copy the shipbuilding techniques of their neighbors, they improved upon them, creating vessels that were uniquely suited to the challenges of the Black Sea. Their navigational skills were equally impressive. Without compasses or written charts, they relied on their deep understanding of the sea's rhythms and their keen observation of the natural world. For the Hittites, the Black Sea wasn't just a resource, it was a partner in their journey toward expansion and connection. The legacy of the Hittites' maritime achievements is a testament to their ingenuity and ambition. They showed that even in a world dominated by mountains and deserts, the sea could be a powerful tool for building an empire. Their ability to navigate and trade across the Black Sea laid the foundation for a civilization that thrived for centuries, leaving behind a legacy that still resonates today. As we turn our gaze from the Black Sea to the warm waters of the Mediterranean, we encounter another civilization that would take maritime exploration to even greater heights. Known for their seafaring prowess and daring voyages, these adventurers would push the boundaries of the known world, proving that the oceans were not just highways for trade, they were gateways to discovery. Their story is one of ambition, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown, as they set their sights on a realm that had long been shrouded in mystery. The stage is set for a new chapter in the history of maritime exploration, where the waves of the Mediterranean would become the gateway to a world of possibilities. The Mycenaeans, often remembered for their towering citadels and legendary tales of heroes like Agamemnon, were also masterful mariners who turned the Aegean Sea into their own domain. Emerging around 1600 BC, this ancient Greek civilization didn't just build fortresses, they built ships, creating a maritime network that linked the islands and coasts of the Aegean in a web of trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. With their advanced vessels and keen navigational skills, the Mycenaeans became the bridge between the ancient world's great civilizations, proving that the sea was as much a part of their legacy as their storied palaces. At the heart of their maritime success were their ships, marvels of engineering for their time. Unlike the simple boats of earlier cultures, Mycenaean vessels were designed for both speed and durability, equipped with multiple sails and reinforced hulls that allowed them to navigate the Aegean's often treacherous waters. These ships weren't just tools of trade, they were floating lifelines carrying everything from olive oil and wine to finely crafted pottery and weapons. The Mycenaeans didn't just sail the Aegean, they mastered it, turning its islands and coastlines into a bustling network of commerce and connection. But their achievements went far beyond shipbuilding. The Mycenaeans were skilled navigators who understood the rhythms of the sea. Without compasses or written charts, they relied on the stars, the sun, and the patterns of coastal winds to guide their journeys. They mapped out safe passages and harbors, creating mental charts that allowed them to travel with confidence. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was strategic, giving them an edge in trade and diplomacy. For the Mycenaeans, the Aegean wasn't just a body of water, it was a pathway to power and influence. Their voyages took them to distant shores, from the bustling ports of Crete to the rocky coasts of Anatolia and beyond. Along the way, they established trade connections with cultures like the Minoans, the Egyptians, and the Hittites, exchanging goods, ideas, and technologies. Mycenaean pottery, with its distinctive designs and craftsmanship, has been found as far away as Egypt and Italy, a testament to the reach of their maritime network. These trade routes weren't just about wealth, they were about cultural exchange. The Mycenaeans became intermediaries, bringing together the traditions and innovations of the ancient world. One of their most fascinating contributions was their role in spreading the Linear B script, an early form of Greek writing. Through their trade networks, they introduced this writing system to neighboring cultures, leaving behind clay tablets that provide invaluable insights into their economy, religion, and daily life. These records reveal a civilization deeply connected to the sea, where ships and sailors played a central role in their identity and survival. The Mycenaeans didn't just explore the Aegean, they shaped it, leaving a legacy that would inspire the Greeks who followed in their wake. As we leave the sunlit waters of the Aegean behind, our journey takes us to a new frontier where the next group of explorers would face an even greater challenge: the vast, uncharted expanse of the Atlantic. These adventurers would set their sights on waters that had long been shrouded in mystery, proving that the ocean was not just a barrier, it was a gateway to discovery. Their story is one of ambition, courage, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown, as they ventured into a realm where every wave held the promise of a new horizon. While the Mycenaeans were charting the Aegean far across the globe, another ancient civilization was making its mark on the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, the Olmecs. Often referred to as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, the Olmecs were more than just the architects of colossal stone heads and intricate jade carvings. They were skilled mariners who turned the Gulf of Mexico into a vibrant corridor of trade and cultural exchange. With their advanced ships and deep understanding of the sea's rhythms, the Olmecs built a maritime network that connected their civilization to distant lands, proving that even in the heart of the Americas, the ocean was a pathway to opportunity. The key to their maritime success lay in their cayucos, sturdy canoes carved from massive tree trunks and capable of navigating the Gulf's often choppy waters. These vessels, often equipped with sails made from woven fibers, were designed to carry both people and goods across long distances. The Olmecs didn't just build boats, they built bridges between cultures, transporting everything from obsidian and jade to cocoa beans and pottery. These goods weren't just commodities, they were symbols of power, wealth, and cultural identity. traded across a network that linked coastal cities to inland settlements. But the Olmec's achievements went far beyond their ships. They were also master navigators who understood the Gulf's tides, currents, and weather patterns. Without compasses or written charts, they relied on the stars, the sun, and even the behavior of marine life to guide their journeys. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was sacred, deeply intertwined with their cosmology and understanding of the natural world. For the Olmecs, the sea wasn't just a resource, it was a living force to be respected and understood. Their ability to read the ocean like a map allowed them to travel with confidence, turning the Gulf of Mexico into a bustling hub of ancient commerce. Their maritime trade routes became the lifeblood of their civilization, connecting cities like La Venta and San Lorenzo to distant markets. Through these networks, the Olmecs exchanged not only goods but also ideas, art, and technology. For example, the spread of their distinctive art styles and architectural techniques across Mesoamerica is a testament to the power of these connections. They didn't just trade physical items, they traded culture, spreading their influence far beyond their borders. The Olmecs became the cultural bridge of ancient Mesoamerica, laying the groundwork for civilizations like the Maya and the Aztecs that would follow in their wake. One of their most fascinating contributions was the trade of jade, a material so revered it was often used in religious rituals and elite burials. Olmec merchants transported jade from the highlands of Guatemala to their coastal cities, where it was transformed into intricate carvings and ceremonial objects. This trade wasn't just about economics, it was about prestige and spirituality, showcasing the Olmec's ability to turn the sea into a pathway for both commerce and cultural exchange. The Olmec's maritime legacy is a reminder that exploration isn't always about crossing vast oceans, it's about mastering the waters closest to home. Their ability to navigate and connect coastal communities laid the foundation for a thriving civilization that endured for centuries. As we turn our gaze from the Gulf of Mexico to the warm waters of the Caribbean, we encounter another civilization that would take maritime exploration to even greater heights. Known for their seafaring prowess and daring voyages, these adventurers would push the boundaries of the known world, proving that the oceans were not just highways for trade, they were gateways to discovery. Their story is one of ambition, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. While the Olmecs were mastering the Gulf of Mexico across the Atlantic, another seafaring culture was making waves: the Celts. Often remembered for their fierce warriors and intricate art, the Celts were also skilled navigators who turned the Atlantic Ocean into a pathway for exploration and connection. Far from being confined to their forested homelands in Europe, these ancient mariners ventured into the unknown, using advanced ships and a deep understanding of the sea to build a maritime legacy that spanned continents. Their voyages weren't just about survival, they were about discovery, trade, and the forging of cultural ties that would shape the ancient world. At the heart of their maritime success were their carrachs, lightweight yet sturdy boats made from wooden frames covered in animal hides. These vessels, though simple in design, were remarkably versatile, capable of navigating the Atlantic's often rough waters. The Celts didn't just build boats, they built bridges between cultures, using their carrachs to transport goods like tin, amber, and wool across vast distances. These trade networks didn't just enrich their own communities, they connected them to distant lands, from the British Isles to the coasts of Iberia and beyond. The Celts' ability to adapt their ships to the challenges of the Atlantic set them apart as some of the most resourceful navigators of their time, but their achievements went beyond shipbuilding. The Celts were astute navigators who understood the rhythms of the ocean. Without maps or compasses, they relied on the stars, the sun, and even the patterns of seabirds to guide their journeys. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was deeply tied to their spiritual beliefs, where the sea was seen as both a provider and a force to be respected. Their ability to read the natural world like a map allowed them to travel with confidence, turning the Atlantic into a bustling corridor of trade and cultural exchange. One of their most fascinating contributions was their role in the ancient tin trade, a commodity essential for bronze production. The Celts' access to rich tin deposits in places like Cornwall made them key players in this lucrative trade network. Their ships carried this precious metal to distant markets where it was exchanged for goods like wine, pottery, and exotic spices. These connections didn't just bring wealth, they brought ideas as Celtic art and craftsmanship began to reflect the influences of the cultures they traded with. The Celts became intermediaries, linking the ancient world in ways that went far beyond commerce. Their maritime legacy is a testament to their ingenuity and ambition. The Celts showed that even in a world dominated by land-based empires, the ocean could be a powerful tool for connection and exploration. Their ability to navigate and trade across the Atlantic laid the foundation for a cultural exchange that enriched not only their own civilization but also the regions they touched. As we shift our focus from the Atlantic to the unknown waters of the next frontier, we encounter a new group of explorers who dared to venture even farther. These adventurers would face challenges unlike any before, proving that the ocean was not just a barrier, it was a gateway to discovery. As the Celts navigated the wild waters of the Atlantic, another seafaring culture was making its mark on the opposite side of Europe, the Berbers. These ancient mariners, indigenous to North Africa, were more than just desert dwellers. They were masters of the Mediterranean, turning its sunlit waters into a vibrant corridor of trade, exploration, and cultural exchange. With their advanced ships and deep understanding of the sea's rhythms, the Berbers forged connections that stretched from the shores of North Africa to the farthest reaches of the Mediterranean, proving that even a culture rooted in the sands could conquer the waves. At the heart of their maritime success were their ships, marvels of engineering that combined strength with elegance. Unlike the simple reed boats of earlier cultures, Berber vessels were designed for both speed and durability, equipped with sails and oars that allowed them to navigate the Mediterranean's unpredictable currents with ease. These ships weren't just tools of trade, they were symbols of the Berbers' ingenuity, capable of transporting everything from grain and olive oil to precious metals and textiles. Their ability to adapt their ships to the challenges of the Mediterranean set them apart as some of the most skilled navigators of their time. But the Berbers' achievements went far beyond shipbuilding. They were also master navigators who understood the intricacies of the Mediterranean's tides, winds, and coastal landmarks. Without compasses or written charts, they relied on the stars, the sun, and even the behavior of seabirds to guide their journeys. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was deeply tied to their cultural identity, reflecting a profound respect for the sea as both a resource and a spiritual force. For the Berbers, the Mediterranean wasn't just a body of water, it was a living, breathing entity to be understood and mastered. Their voyages took them to distant shores, from the bustling ports of Carthage to the rocky coasts of Sicily and Sardinia. Along the way, they established trade connections with neighboring cultures like the Phoenicians, Greeks, and Romans, exchanging goods, ideas, and technologies. Berber merchants became the intermediaries of the ancient Mediterranean, facilitating the flow of goods like gold, ivory, and exotic spices. These trade networks weren't just about wealth, they were about cultural exchange. The Berbers introduced North African traditions and innovations to the wider world, leaving a lasting impact on the civilizations they touched. One of their most fascinating contributions was their role in spreading the use of the camel saddle, a technology that revolutionized desert trade. Through their maritime connections, they introduced this innovation to the broader Mediterranean world, where it was adapted for use in both land and sea trade. This exchange of ideas and technologies highlights the Berbers' ability to bridge distant cultures, creating a legacy that went far beyond their own borders. As we reflect on the Berbers' maritime achievements, we're reminded of the profound impact that ancient explorers had on shaping the world we know today. Their voyages weren't just about discovery, they were about connection, bringing together distant lands and cultures in ways that continue to influence us. Now, as we approach the final chapter of our journey, we'll explore how these ancient explorations laid the foundation for the modern world, proving that the spirit of discovery is as timeless as the waves themselves. The stage is set for a grand conclusion, where the threads of these ancient voyages come together to reveal the enduring legacy of human curiosity and resilience. From the Phoenicians charting the Mediterranean to the Polynesians mastering the vast Pacific, these 25 ancient maritime explorations were more than just journeys across the sea, they were the threads that wove the world together. Each voyage, each discovery, reshaped not only the maps of their time but also the very fabric of human history. These explorers, armed with little more than ingenuity, courage, and an unyielding curiosity, ventured into the unknown, connecting distant lands and cultures in ways that still resonate today. Imagine a world without these ancient mariners. The Mediterranean might have remained a fragmented sea of isolated cultures, the Pacific a vast and empty expanse. The spices of the East, the gold of Africa, and the ideas that flowed between civilizations might never have reached the shores of Europe or the Americas. These explorers didn't just navigate the oceans, they bridged worlds, creating a global network of trade, knowledge, and cultural exchange that laid the foundation for the interconnected world we live in today. But it wasn't just about trade or conquest. These voyages were a testament to the human spirit, a reminder that curiosity and courage can overcome even the most daunting challenges. From the Vikings braving the icy North Atlantic to the Chinese sailing as far as East Africa, these explorers pushed the boundaries of what was possible, proving that the ocean wasn't a barrier but a gateway. Their legacy is etched into the maps we use, the languages we speak, and the cultures we celebrate. As we reflect on these ancient journeys, it's impossible not to marvel at their ingenuity. Without GPS or modern tools, they relied on the stars, the waves, and their own intuition to navigate uncharted waters. They faced storms, starvation, and the unknown with a resilience that inspires us even now. Their stories remind us that exploration isn't just about reaching new places, it's about expanding our understanding of the world and our place within it. So, what can we learn from these ancient mariners? Perhaps it's the importance of curiosity, the courage to venture into the unknown, or the understanding that connection, not isolation, is the key to progress. Their voyages remind us that the world is vast, but it's also deeply interconnected, shaped by the journeys of those who dared to explore it. As we close this chapter on ancient maritime exploration, let's leave you with a thought. What uncharted waters are we navigating today? In a world where so much has been mapped and explored, what frontiers remain for us to discover? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you've enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to subscribe and join us as we uncover more mysteries of the past. The sea of history is vast, and there are always more stories waiting.